Kill that. You guys should hear me now. Right? Good evening. If you're watching live, welcome to episode 192 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube, as always, with host Stefan Loeffler at Junkwax Twins.
Oh, hi.
Myself, Ben Wilson, at Our Trading Cards. We are a podcast by collectors for collectors, and we hope to bring you a smart and insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. All cards tell a story. What stories do your cards tell? And we're going to have some fun stories here coming up with our special guest. We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
10
Apparently,
Central.
Yeah, there you go, 10 Central. He's on a delay, guys, on YouTube. You follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere you can find one. Quick announcement. Yesterday, my son Bentley turned 8, so happy birthday to Bentley, who apparently listens. So, of course, as a proud dad and a selfish host, I was like, hey, who is your favorite co-host? And he literally paused for like a good 10 seconds before saying, probably you. Almost like he's questioning if that's the right answer. And I'm like, all right, okay. I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem if he would have said Steph. I mean, we all love Steph, but
I mean, I wouldn't admit to knowing me either, so that's okay.
So we want to welcome back guest host Chris Anderson at CD Anders 313. Did I get that right?
No,
You did that.
You actually had C. Anders.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I don't know what I have. All right. Anyway, hey, welcome back, Chris.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for having me back. Tough to follow the appearance by Nick last week. It was a great show. But as kind of mentioned pre-show, I did pick up a pro tip and pre-napped before the show. So it's 11 o'clock here East Coast. Been up since 4, but still raring and ready to go after the nap.
But yeah, I mean, you got nothing else better to do. It's not like you can watch baseball spring training or anything.
Right.
So we want to say hi to
Oh, that's right.
say hi to everybody in the YouTube chat. Mark Wilkins, Matt McNeil, Jeremy, Foul 5 Ball. I don't know who else is out there listening, but welcome. Good evening. You know, it's March now. It's March Madness, I guess. You know, end of the basketball and hockey season. Football, the official football season starts in about 2 weeks now. So
yeah, a little bit longer. Go Panthers, right? USFL.
So what's new in your world of collecting? You know, it's been quite a while since we've had you on. So what's new?
So kind of funny or kind of just well timed, I guess. Coming back on looking back the last time I was on, it was you kind of had that discussion because I was kind of in a funny place, I guess, with my collecting, with my collection of I had kind of met or kind of reached all my collecting goals, and so being a lifelong collector, I was kind of lost there for a little bit, just kind of looking around, trying to figure out what to do next or what to look for, you know, what to collect next. You know, like I said, the goals that I had, the collections that I had, I was kind of caught up. I was current. There wasn't, you know, much to chase other than anything new that was produced. And so I kind of took the approach of you know, kind of gave it a little time. I kind of kept a little list running of you know, possible things I might want to look into or pursue or kind of chase after. And you know, after kind of talking to some other folks and, you know, listening to this show and some other shows and kind of reading some blogs and just trying to get some ideas. I decided to dip my toes in, I guess, or kind of jump into the player PC pool. That's something I hadn't ever done before, really tried or focused on. And so then, kind of gave it, like I said, gave that some thought, or kind of figured out, who should I chase after. And so I settled on Cecil Fielder, and so I kind of jumped into a Cecil Fielder, starting a Cecil Fielder PC, and actually we were kind of joking around this, but I refer to March 17th as my Cecilversary, because that's the first day that I got my first shipment of Cecil Fielder base cards from Sports Lots. That's kind of the day where I guess it really kind of jumped into that pool, and it's something really kind of taken off. I've enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. It's been a lot of fun over the last couple of years. Chasing down every Cecil Fielder card that I could find or reasonably afford.
Let alone adding to that list, much like Ben does whenever there's a new something or another added to any number of the checklist websites.
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, stuff's been a great help in helping me sort through a couple of those. That's also kind of part of the fun too, right? It's not just he's a retired player, but one that is reasonably popular, or I think at least Topps has a reasonable stack of sticker autos, because he seems to show up every third release. But there's a steady stream of new cards coming out, but not a flood. And then there's always some new variation or some printing mistake from the past that gets uncovered, and so it's a perpetual chase. It's been, like I said, it's just been a lot of fun. I started out just chasing specifically Tigers related cards of his, because I'm a Tigers fan, and that I've slowly expanded that over time to just look for stuff over the entirety of his career. And kind of funny enough that I chose him as well, because he was definitely a very popular player when I was a teenager, and definitely a fan favorite and a favorite of mine. But he like most kids growing up in the Detroit area, in the 80s, like we all wanted to be Alan Trammell. Alan Trammell was my favorite player as a kid. Again, I chose Cecil just because that was it was a really kind of cool, fun story of him, kind of having kind of an average kind of hanging on career. Guy goes to Japan, lights up Japan. The Tigers take a flyer on him. Not the irony not lost there, being a Japanese import coming to Detroit, and just kind of reigniting at least interest in baseball after a pretty disastrous 1989 season for the Tigers. And I guess also I chose him too, just kind of from a card historian perspective. If you kind of think his career starts mid 80s, and so and ends mid 90s, and so there's a pretty great when I look at those cards across in that spectrum, it's pretty cool to see, kind of starting in that early 80s era. So there's, a couple releases for every year, and then you see the momentum build, you see the releases, increase, and then you just see kind of, it goes right into that phase with the inserts, where the inserts start to go nuts and get crazy and get really, really creative. So it's a pretty cool, almost collecting, history of baseball cards perspective.
So absolutely, and obviously the flood of inserts more recently for our beloved Junk Wax era, favorite players, fan favorites, team favorites, and whatnot. It's really the parallels that get us. If you just stuck with base, which there aren't very many of, perhaps in some of like the top triple threads and things, but a lot of inserts in the flagship for some of those players. But it's when you want to get all of the parallels, like in anything. I mean, they all have parallels, but you go down those rabbit holes time and time again and start building at least a partial rainbow. That's when it gets extremely expensive as well as frustrating, because you got to chase them all. And that's on top of anything and everything else you've chosen to collect, especially for guys like you and Steph, who don't just collect baseball cards, but also have interests in hockey. And, at least in Steph's case, he's got non-sports as well that he focuses on. So you spread yourself really thin, and you see that player on that checklist with 12 different parallels, and it's like, oh, dear.
Right.
So, regarding the Tigers, I got to ask, before you decided on Cecil, were you looking at any of the other all-time fan favorites? No Fidrich, no Gates Brown, no Ron LaFleur.
Yeah, funny. So those are nice. Some good pulls, some nice names. So for sure, Trammell was on my list, and
Or Sweet Lou.
And yeah, Lou was on my list too. Especially kind of thinking about his inevitable Hall of Fame induction that will happen at some point. Yeah, those guys were on my list for sure. Trammell, and Lou. There are, having obviously been a part of the, I guess, Detroit collecting community, like I said, for pretty much my whole life. I mean, there are also some pretty, people who are super invested in those players already, and kind of coming to the party a little late on this too. That was something I considered too. Is that like Trammell being my favorite player, like as a kid, like that seems like the easy one to go to, but he probably has twice, or I'm sure has at least 2-3 times as many cards as Cecil does. And then there's people who've been piecing that him pretty hardcore for a pretty long time. That's that the amount of if I wanted to start finding some of those more rare parallels, like there's a lot of competition out there, and a lot of people who are, like I said, pretty deeply invested that I'm sure my card budget can't keep up with them. So there's some of that too. Gates Brown would have been fun. Actually, just given his story to him and Ron LaFleur, since they both served prison time in their past and are sort of redemption stories. I mean, those would have been cool. Also would have opened me up. Not a Star Trek guy. I know you are, Steph, but that would have also opened me up to some LeVar Burton parallels, maybe, or some LeVar Burton autographs, since he played him in the TV movie.
He actually lived not that far from where I'm at for a period of time in his younger days, and Sacramento has one star, like the Los Angeles Walk of Fame. They have one star for one celebrity downtown, and it's for LeVar Burton.
It's for LeVar Burton. It's awesome.
Yes. Someday I'll be there too, because they'll be like, "Oh, hey, that About the Cards guy's from here, so let's go ahead and." It might be like underneath, or behind a trash can or something like that, but it'll be there. I mean, I'm taking sidewalk chalk down there next time and putting a star next to his.
Well, if he's going to mention side tidbits, here's one for you. The penitentiary that Gates Brown was sentenced to was also used in a major production movie. Can you name the movie?
Attica.
No.
I'm gonna guess. What's shoot? Totally
it's
blank.
In Ohio.
Yeah, right. It's is it the I guess what's the Tim Robbins movie? Right. I can't believe Shawshank.
Right,
Shawshank.
That is Shawshank. Yep.
That's the easy one, Steph. Come on.
I also think.
Pumped, right?
Yeah, if I'm correct too, I also think that. Kind of drawing more of those Michigan connections, that Jim Harbaugh's dad was childhood friends or high school teammates with Gates Brown. And so kind of connection there too, kind of the sports connection too. I think Jim Harbaugh's dad was also a pretty successful college coach.
That's awesome. So, hey, usually when we have people that come back on, sometimes even first-time guests, we like to at least pick their brain a little bit. What do you want to come on and talk about? Is there anything that's on your mind? And You gave us a few things you wanted to discuss at the top of the show, and something I found extremely interesting was something that you said that you've decided to sell your Tigers autograph PC. So would you like to elaborate? I know you shared it with us privately, but if you can elaborate on why now, and of course, how you're going to go about finding a buyer.
Yeah, no, that yeah, for sure we can talk about that. That would be great. Actually, I'd appreciate I guess kind of the open discussion about it too, because it's funny now thinking about it and putting in that context. It seems I'm only coming on when I'm in these crisis moments in my collecting life, right? Or not? I guess it's not a crisis moment, but a major decision point.
For what it's worth, you were last on episode 82.
So I've been doing pretty well then, because I haven't had any of these major decision points in a while then. Yeah, so I guess my Tigers autograph PC. So I probably about 20 years ago, I set out to when a collecting goal that I'd set for myself and had accomplished was to get an autographed card of every Tigers player and coach that had spent at least a third of an inning, had at least put on the uniform and stepped on the field since as long as I was alive. So since going back to the mid 70s, and so that like I said, I started that about 20 years ago, and that was a pretty fun hunt. It was a pretty fun journey because there are, for every Alan Trammell, for every Lou Whitaker, for every Mark Fidrich, as you mentioned, there's 5 times as Tim Burdicks or Sheldon Burnsides, Oscar Henriquez, who just played a handful of games, was a September call up and got into one game late in the season, or something like that. Got called up as an emergency call up, pitched a third of an inning, and got sent right back to Toledo and never came back. So all those guys were on my list. I went after all of those guys, and it was, like I said, it was a pretty deep hunt. In my younger years, I guess I did a lot of autographing at the stadium, and did a lot of through the mail, did a lot of TTM autographing, and met and connected with other autograph collectors throughout the country, really, not just here in Michigan, but met a few here in Michigan and throughout the country, and had a kind of a network going. And that even expanded too. So while I was there, I also had opportunities to go back farther than the mid 70s, and so I really started to go after any Tiger that I could reasonably get an autograph of since 1952. I kind of went with the top start date, and that when, like I said, minor league cards, even just kind of not index cards, but kind of baseball card size signature cards if I couldn't get any kind of picture card that they're on, and so that collection is now it's 1,700 plus cards, and it is sort of on cruise control, I guess, at this point. So anytime that the Tigers sign a new player, like when they signed Javi Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez, that I'm running out to get searching eBay or whatever avenue, and just grabbing a certified card for those players. If they're in a Tiger uniform or not doesn't matter to me. Obviously, I prefer a Tiger uniform, but I'm willing to bend on that. I even have had some folks in other minor league cities that I kind of had a little network going, where they would get autographs for me, or we'd have an arrangement where we do buying cards for sending them cards, buying a couple extra cards for them, and they would get them signed from one signed for me and send it back. So I even had a stockpile of, and actually still have a stockpile of players from the Tigers minor league system. So as soon as they get called up, and if I have them in stock, then literally they're going from reserve box into the active player box. Like they literally get called up inside the collection, and so it's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool network, but yeah, this like again, kind of taking it a critical look at my collection and kind of going back to, well, why would I want to sell this? A couple things came to mind. I mean, at this point, like it's something that I just kind of maintain. It doesn't nearly as excite me as much as it used to, and I think that that's probably something every collector runs into at some point or time. And it's not, some of it may be chalked up to collecting fatigue, I think, but some of it also is, just your interests change just like anything else over time, and so it's just something not as interest. I pretty much it's almost a chore at this point, I guess, to keep up with it from the standpoint of, again, it's not something I'm not actively like autographing at stadiums anymore. If you could, I guess you can't even really do that much anymore, but or kind of chasing those things. It's really just kind of keeping up with it for the sake of keeping up with it, to keep it current. I'm still running into a minor league call up here or there that's just pretty tough to track down because they just don't have much available, and so spending a lot of time trying to track those down, and then also kind of thinking about the mortality aspect of it too. And so I if something were to happen to me, or hopefully much later on in life or something, if we got to the point where it was kind of up to my family to figure out what to do with my collection or disperse my collection, like that's the one piece of it that really would be time consuming and really be if you didn't really know what you're doing, or kind of really have any of those hobby connections, or just kind of hobby know-how, it would be really difficult for them to I think to move it on and get fair, get a fair value for it. And so that kind of all those things kind of factored in. Again, also the again, kind of going back to the Cecil Fielder collection, with that whatever funds I'm able to generate from moving that collection, right, that sets me up with some funds to get do some pretty fun things with the Cecil Fielder collection. The other main point of my collection are team sets, Tigers, Lions, and Red Wings team sets, and that kind of going back to the Mike Summers self-sustaining hobby, like that. That the funds I would get from selling that would set me up to keep that running. Pretty much have its own its own mutual fund to keep it in progress for quite a long time.
So that's one of the ones that if I were to try to do something similar, I'd run into some obvious problems, because everyone remembers the stars, or even the minor stars who became famous for a season and then they signed somewhere else or whatnot. But we have Jaime Garcia, which, if you don't remember as a Twin, I don't blame you, because he literally only played one game before being traded again in the same week to the Yankees. Started one game, 6 innings, 8 hits, and 4.05 ERA. There's no card of him. I would love to have a Twin, or maybe a mock-up at some point, card made for each of the players that don't have a Twins card. But that's one of the more obvious versions where I'll have to do something special too, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's so good.
The biggest problem with what you've created for your PC was, when you decide to sell it, you have to find another somebody that wants a pre-made set that encompasses all of this. And again, there might be somebody that has some of it and only needs part of yours, or only wants, I'll take all of the players that actually were quote unquote Tigers. So beyond the Trammels and the Whitakers and the Morrises and the Gibsons, all the way up through the Verlanders and Cabreras and Fielders and whatnot, everybody in between, I don't need that guy that only played, like Steph says, the Garcia who played one game here or there sprinkled in, and I'm not paying for that. So when you have to value this set and finding, I've got the complete Tops Now run of all of the Oakland A's. Okay, well, if I was ever to offload it, I would have to find somebody that needs it and wants it. And it would pay fair market worth for the entire collection, or my entire Mother's Cookies run from 84 through 98. It's like at some point somebody's going to say, I only want this, and they're going to want to cherry pick it. But again, it's that high, right? You're chasing that high, and we all do it. You buy something on eBay and you're so excited to find it, buy it, pay for it. It comes in, that anticipation, it comes in the mail, you get it. You're happy for 5 minutes, you stick it in a binder, and now what's next? It's almost that Truman Show effect where you watch this guy's life the entire time, and then at the end it's over, and it's like, okay, well, what else is on? And it's so short-lived. I mean, I look at my binders all the time as I'm shuffling through them, and it's just like, what am I doing here? Just collecting pictures of men, and I have to have the next one. Is it just that you're chasing that high? Or do you really want this stuff? Because at the end of the day, we're trading our life, literally our life, for it, because you're trading an hour of your time to make $10 an hour, and then you're spending that $10 on a trading card. So you're spending an hour of your life and trading it for a picture of Cecil Fielder or whatever and whomever. So you better make sure that's really what you want to do, and you're not just doing it because it's what we're supposed to do at this point, or we're in too deep into the hobby, and you get this feeling like, well, I have to get the next guy that comes up with the Tigers, whether I want to or not, because I have to maintain this PC that at one time was awesome. When I had none. Got my first one, and I needed the next one. At what point do you just look at it and go, you know what? I did it, and I accomplished it. I got them all. But now it's on to something else, whether it's in the hobby or not, find something else. You want to put that towards, collecting books or audiobooks or gardening or restoring a car or whatever. But so this kind of leads into the next thing. Now, as a Tigers fan, you signed Javi Baez for a long-term deal. So at least for the presumable, at least for the next 4 or 5 years, he should be in Detroit. Whether he plays out the entire contract, who knows? Do you PC him now moving forward? And if you do you go back and PC some of his Cub stuff?
Yeah, it's a good, interesting question. I guess to be full transparent with going back to the autograph collection, I already acquired a Javi Baez. He's already there in the box.
Nice.
No surprise, I guess. But yeah, for him, I guess it kind of, I think you, Ben, you say it often, and I think you hit it very well, is that there's no standard definition of a card collection, right? Your card collection is what you define it and what you make it. And so for me, it's, I guess my Javi Baez PC will literally be, whatever cards of his show up in Flagship or Stadium Club, or any of the couple other team set brands that I collect. But I mean, it would have been for me. I mean, whether they got Javi Baez or had gotten Carlos Correa or somebody else. I mean, he's the same as he's the same as Zach Short in that respect.
Gotcha. Now, just real quick, I know you touched on this a little bit as part of another question when we were getting into your auto PC. Our buddy Jeremy in the YouTube chat asked if you could tell what you collected before Fielder. I know you mentioned you were a team set collector. Did you have a non-team set focus prior to Fielder and the autographs, or was that really where it was at, and then Fielder just became one-off with those?
Yeah, it really was kind of a jump. Yeah, it was kind of a one-off Fielder outside of the autos. You mentioned, I think the last time I was on, like I said, I've been collecting stuff literally since I was 3 years old, starting with the old Topps sticker books, the baseballs. I did stickers before I did cards. That was something I did with my dad. That was kind of my gateway drug, was the Topps sticker books. But at some point in time, like I've kind of I've almost done everything. Like it's taken me a pretty long time to, and I guess maybe I'm still refining it to kind of settle on what interests me or excites me most. It wasn't just Tiger players that I used to TTM or chase autos of. It was literally anybody any major league player I could get a signature of. At one point in time, I had an autographed card collection that was actually 8,000 plus. And so that I sold that and moved on from that several years ago. At different times, I've had different pieces of memorabilia or other autographed items, not always cards. Like I've had programs and balls, and I totally fell in love with starting lineups when they were big and they were a thing. At one time, I had a pretty large starting lineup collection. And that for me, that's the one thing that I still with friends of mine, I still joke about. We still joke about being in a 12-step starting lineup program. My starting lineup habit got pretty bad, and that's the one thing I still look at, that still shows up in my that's in my searches, that I still look at. That I'm always tempted to just fall off the wagon one day and go buy a dozen, but try to keep myself in check on those, because at this point I just have nowhere to display them. And those are one thing, like if you're collecting them and you don't have a place to display them, then what's the point? But
that's why I stopped collecting McFarlane's. I mean, they were expensive, but I filled up a complete shelf in my bedroom with all of the Hall of Fame collection, and then McFarlane stopped making those. But it's probably for the better, because I have a little bit of room to go back and maybe get some of the ones I missed. But it's funny you mentioned starting lineup, because I literally 2 weeks ago just sold my the one I think it was from '88, where you can display 8 figures on it.
The stand, yeah, right.
Stand. I just sold that on eBay from when I was a kid, because it was like I've got a bunch of the loose figures from '88, '89, '90 up in the rafters, which I'm never going to put on display. So why do I need the display, which is sitting in a box up on a shelf? And it's like, hey, let's find it a new home. Hopefully whoever gets it can display their favorite 8 figures. And how much of that stuff can you honestly collect? I mean, my dad never talking about it at dinner time. Somebody was selling her Barbie collection, and my dad, having space at an antique mall, was a prospective buyer, and she wanted full retail, so he didn't buy it. But she didn't have any room for it. And I said, when it comes to collectibles, when it comes to hobbies, there's 2 rules before anything else, even before money. And that's time and space. Always. It's going to come down to time and space. How much time do you have to dedicate to it? And how much are you willing to dedicate to it? And then, of course, how much space do you have? Because you can't collect it all, because you can't display it all unless you have infinite funds and you want to buy a whole house to display it all.
Right.
But time and space always come down. And then, of course, the third variable is the associated cost and your budget. But we have a really packed show. I want to get to 1 or 2 last topics before we actually get into the show. You're creating customs or getting into creating customs. Something I'd love to learn about, make some A's here at home. What made you decide to do that? Do you have any handy? Just you can show 1 or 2 of them, or you're not there yet?
Yeah, no, I actually do. I actually have one. I actually have one here sitting next to me. I grabbed a couple things just in case they came up as topics. What got me into it, I guess, was just seeing some things that some other people had done, and so again, I guess just had finally had the time and decided to jump in and try it. I gotta give a lot of credit to Nick Vosbrink. I put out some questions when I first started thinking about it, and he was really great about responding to that inquiry at first. And then I over a course of like a week, I probably peppered him with like a couple dozen questions about how he does it and doing it. And then so I jumped in and I created just a sort of a prototype sheet, if you will, just kind of did a test run. I was super happy with the results there. And so my first big project, being a passionate Tigers fan, was to do a Topps Total style set. So I created a 2021 Tigers team set and did every player that played at least put on the uniform and walked down the field, and I had a blast doing it. Halfway through it, I just kind of kept saying to myself, like, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. I can't believe it's taken me so long to try my hand at this, because it was just so much fun to work on, create a nice design, and writing the backs was, I had a great time writing the backs. The one kind of tying all things together. So the one that I have that I made that to share, I guess, is get down the glare. Actually, is a Cecil Fielder. So this is from my my prototype run, and I actually he did a signing here in the metro area a couple months ago, and so I sent this. I couldn't make it to the show, so I had to mail it in. But I mailed it in and got it signed. And for anybody who says that they just grade cards because they like the slabs, you kind of tell here I slabbed it myself. $7. You can buy your own slab. I just thought it'd be fun to seal it up.
That's awesome. I asked Nick a long time ago to help me. Maybe we didn't know each other that well, so he said no. But I need to make me a bunch of Mark McGwire cards that will never see the light of day. But you know what? I would label them so that the mortality, the postmortem, make sure that whoever's hands they would end up in at a later date when Ben's no longer here knows that they were ACO. And that way there's no question about that, because that's always the question is whatever you make and do at your own house is what you do at your own house. But the images and stuff we don't have rights to, so you can't sell it.
Right.
So it's not an issue right now while we're alive and well, but it's what happens once it gets into somebody else's hands. So real quick, before we get into one last topic, you had some thoughts on Series 1 having Cleveland Guardian cards and not Cleveland Indian cards. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and not to make it a political conversation, like it's not like the fact that the changing the name or in the reasoning behind changing the name, I think is secondary to this question, or kind of where I was going at. It just I know that some folks, I guess I would put me in this category too, look at trading cards as sort of an anthology, right, of a documentation of the previous year's baseball season. What happened in the previous year, especially in like a Series 1. I know later on, Series 2 or in an update series, now you are capturing kind of current season kind of things. But it did strike me as odd that they, and I'm sure it came down to a licensing thing, but I just thought it was funny from that perspective that that they had already kind of airbrushed through the Indians designation and put listed everybody as guardians. That just, I don't know. I personally like the idea of it being a time capsule of the previous season, and whether you like it or not, however you feel about it. I mean, in 2021 there was a team called the Cleveland Indians, and so that if the set documents that, then why wouldn't they still go through with Indians, other than it being a licensing issue, I guess, at that point.
But Topps Archives is going to have Indians. And you're not going to do Kenny Lofton and Jim Tomei and Bob Feller cards in future releases that are Cleveland Guardians. I mean, those are going to have to be the Indians.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Yeah, or they give them the like the panini treatment, right? And maybe it's a photo where they're like looking over their shoulder, or
Stop.
like,
Come on, man. We're all adults in the room. Stop. I mean,
the people because wifey has family in the Cleveland area. They still call their stadium Jacobs. It's not whatever it's called now. They'll still call the team the Indians.
Look, if you want to eventually do away with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Braves, again, without getting onto the political, we all have our own opinions of whether or not those team names are appropriate or not.
Sure.
The Washington Redskins, we talked about it a couple weeks back about eBay flagging certain things that are questionable, Red Man tobacco and things associated with Bonanza, and the Redskins perhaps having issues. Something Washington Redskins got taken down on Picker Channel I watch. This guy had this issue, and the Washington Redskins, the Cleveland Indians, so on and so forth. These teams existed for a window of time, an era of time, and they had merchandise and apparel and trading cards and so on and so forth produced while that was still in. Cleveland Indians existed last year, like you said. Don't take that stuff down. Just moving forward, starting today, moving forward, anything in perpetuity is now going to forever be known now as the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians, and perhaps other team names and changes. The Washington Wizards and no longer the Washington Bullets. I mean, we used to have the Colt 45s named after a gun. Right. There was a lot of questionable names, for better or worse, that people could find offense with, and that's okay. As a society in general, we get smarter over time. We get more accepting, and theoretically, and we want to encompass everybody's feelings and try to make things more accepting. But let's not forget our history. How do you forget your history? Hey, that's what they were. That's what the name on. Anyway, if you need to go for any reason, Chris, let us know. I know it's late where you're at. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the show, so long as your eyelids stay open. Yeah. Nick did it last week, so that's the bar that you have to measure up to. So that's the way it goes. So this just in listener mail days. Steph, do you have that one that you just got from Mark Hoyle handy? I'd like you to share that, and we'll get into the show after you do.
I did also, much like yourself, get a package from Mark Wilkins. Nice numbered Kirilov and a little tiny mini foily whatnots.
While you're sharing that, Steph, I'm going to step away real quick and grab something that BJ Toby sent me that I want to share real quick because it's awesome.
Okay, you go do that. I will pull up the picture as it loads. Come on, slow internet. There we go. Perfect. Boop, badoop, badoop, boop. For Robert / Lefty Grove from a Gaudy series. It's one that Mark recently had picked up through the mail. That's 33? Yeah, it says on the back.
34 will have the Garrig on it.
Right.
Can't believe you don't know that, Steph. Aren't you?
I said it's 33. Yeah, that was confirmed.
That's to me. Gorgeous card.
Right? And then you said you had something?
Yeah, so BJ Toby sent me a couple things, a couple odds and ends. Said he made an acquisition. There's a couple A's cards in there, and it's, again, let's find the right home for him. Not only is the card cool, but it's the cases that they came in. So you'll see it's just two 1987 Topps Mark McGuire's to add to the PC. These ones will not leave these cases because they are, in fact, screw downs. And he even had a note about how the nostalgia and the retro of the fact that whoever put these in there probably put these in there in 87 or 88, most likely, late 80s, and thought they were doing right by these cards because it's what we knew at the time. And the fact that these are in screw downs makes these cards even better because somebody wanted to highly preserve these, 30 some odd years ago. So I appreciate him for those, and even more so for the screw downs, because it just adds to the nostalgia of the 87. So I appreciate BJ for that. Please feel free to share with About the Cards your mail days, pulls. You can tag About the Cards on Twitter, and we will find you. If you got pictures or a video, we'll do our best to get you on a future show. So the week that was last week's releases, Topps Living, week 207. If Jared Kelly is still in the YouTube chat, congratulations, brother, because it was a big week for you. He penned the 495 Wander Franco card, which sold. These are just estimates, but the reported number was 41,744. Acuna still holds the number one spot at 46,809 from week 7. So that was 200 weeks ago that Acuna was released. And so Franco was about 5,000 short of breaking the record. He is now the number 2 all-time. Juan Soto, which was released in week 15, came in at 28,572. So he shattered number 2. Just goes to show how high those numbers were at the very beginning versus where they're at now. Andrew Benintendi was also released last week and came in at 943 copies. That might adjust up when the bulk numbers come out, the 2-packs and everything. But for now, kind of goes to show you what Franco Mania is doing. And it begs the question, who are you going to sell them to? Because everybody that wanted one just bought 30 of them. So I imagine, a year from now, a lot of these will probably still be in the $8 to $12 range. I can't see these being highly sought after. I mean, they're rookie cards, but it's Topps Living. So a couple of major releases last week. 2021-22 O-Pee-Chee Hockey came out on the 24th. And then on the 25th, 21-22 Panini Donruss Basketball and Leaf Valiant Football. It's kind of a light week. Hot off the presses, new releases this week, week 208. 497 Chipper Jones, third baseman for the Braves. And card 498, Matt Manning, rookie card pitcher for Chris's Detroit Tigers. So, good week. Matt Manning is from Jared. Jeremy mentions in the YouTube. I'll have to share that on next week's. I've got it not quite handy, but he sent me a pretty cool one in a screw down as well. So I'll have to grab that out of the McGuire collection, which is over there again. But that was pretty cool. There's a couple cool things that Jeremy sent me. Sent me a bunch of, I don't remember if I shared it or not, but the Mother's Cookie bag. There was a bunch of K and BR. It was one of the AM radio stations, a whole stack of bumper stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. A Mark McGuire starting lineup in the package, no less. It was a really surprising mail day, and I'm sure we mentioned it because I think Steph and Shep got cards as well from Jeremy around that time. So it was pretty cool. Lots of trip down memory lane. So, and then Topps Living Star Wars, available through next Tuesday, came out. Card 287, Lando Calrissian from Star Wars Rebels. And card 288, Hermione Bagua from Attack of the Clones. This is the first week in a couple weeks that wasn't Book of Boba Fett related. And Jared Kelly in the chat room says, seriously, I'm very grateful for everyone who bought a Wander Franco Living Set card. I mean, first off, you earned it because that was a phenomenal card. Glad to see that you got, the Franco. And of course, 41,000 is amazing. If that is the exact final number, and he does come in at number 2, it's going to be hard to top Acuna and Franco long term. And then again, he did the Matt Manning this week.
Depends how many of these I buy.
Yeah, I might need the Matt Manning now as well. So, good card. Go grab your Matt Manning rookie card. He's supposed to be a good one, along with Casey Mize and who else is supposed to anchor that?
Tarek Skubal, Spencer Turnbull. Yeah, Matt Manning's an interesting guy. I guess an interesting player because he's still his role really hasn't been determined yet. I mean, he's been groomed to be a starter along the way, but he could be. It wouldn't be out of range for him to have a really solid long career as just one of those stable bullpen guys that you can count on for a while. So he'll be interesting to watch over the next year or two. He's super tall. He's also super Randy Johnson tall.
Yeah, Jared says that Chipper's fire Sato's killing it. It's a great week to get both of them if you want. Obviously you got Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer, one of the last players perhaps to spend their entire career with one franchise. And then, of course, you got Matt Manning. Anytime there's a rookie card, there's a lot of people that are just chasing the rookie cards. Shep used to do it. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, grabbing all the rookie cards from the set. So, if you want to venture outside your PC, it's a good time to grab two. Got a Hall of Famer and a rookie. And again, the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. And Jared Kelly has now confirmed that he'll be on About the Cards on April 13th. So about 6 weeks from now.
4/13. Indeed.
And then, if you want to throw that on the show notes so we don't forget. Topps Throwback Thursday, available through tomorrow morning. This is the fourth and final 2008 baseball set number 8 overall. Card 22, Buster Posey. 23, Cody Bellinger with the short print. And 24, Ivan Rodriguez on the Texas Rangers. And then...
So, while I pull this up, Ben, you have a message on your phone?
I do. Oh, dear Lord.
I do got to say, again, really nice set. If they would actually feature a twin, it would cause me probably to go back and buy the other 7 weeks. But it's Topps Throwback, so of course they don't feature anybody in the Central.
They got Ivan Rodriguez. They had Steve Carlton. They had Ricky Henderson as a Blue Jay a couple weeks ago. I forget who the other veteran was in this particular design. So it's kind of nice to see them, doing some players that aren't as featured. You don't see a whole lot of Ivan Rodriguez cards, at least, especially on the on-demand stuff. So Steve Carlton, it's kind of nice to see some of the players that they've chosen as the third guy.
So you're trying to imply that Topps has an issue releasing Rangers in regular product? Like Series 1 last year?
We would never say anything bad about Topps on this show.
2020.
I mean, we would never say one thing bad about them. We usually say 4 to 5 things per show. So one thing would be a very odd show. And then as far as major releases, Upper Deck Series 1 Hockey came out today, $125 a box. You're going to get 24 packs, 8 cards a pack. Base set is going to be 250 cards. Kind of an interesting makeup. 198 veterans with 49 young guns and 3 checklists. I thought the makeup of that when I saw it was like 198, 49, and 3 to make the 250. You'll get in a box. You'll get 6 regular young guns, 6 debut dates, electromagnetic, hundo, P and or rookie retrospective cards, 4 Upper Deck canvas cards, which are Upper Deck and Canvas and me. I mean, I just their canvas stuff is just ridiculous in a good way. The way they do those canvas are phenomenal.
So an example here being the David Pastrnak.
Yeah, if I were to collect hockey cards, I would definitely have a canvas. I know they did the AEW canvas, I believe, and I would just collect canvas stuff because it's just beautiful. 2 Upper Deck portrait cards, 2 honor roll cards, a Dazzler's Blue, a clear cut parallel Upper Deck game jersey or other hit card, 1 base set French parallel, which do also include the Young Guns, and then 1 wild card. So I just cut and pasted all of that from the sell sheet. There's a lot of good stuff in Series 1. So I'm sure hockey collectors are extremely excited. We're going to have James Kikowski on next week to talk about this release and kind of what was it. I mean, when I talked to him on the phone, it was like the Young Guns set was ridiculous. Again, in a good way. It was very robust.
Solid. I mean, Chris is going to be waiting out for Series 2 for a few of his Red Wings, but the Stars anyway. First impressions from the sell sheet, I kind of dig it. You've got a puck where the jersey would go for the base Udi game jersey regular. Portraits is back for another year. I really absolutely love the look of the electromagnetic. You've got the regular photo and then silhouettes of them in different colors. So in this case, red, yellow, green, blue, and purple on the same card. Kind of like that 90 Upper Deck Ricky where he's running. It was 90, right? 89?
That's a 91.
91. Okay. Honor roll is okay.
That is pretty
I
badass.
Last year's design much better. Canvas. I mean, I think I have 14 Young Guns to finish off my complete set for last year, including the extended series, and then I think I'm going to chase the canvas outside of some of the canvas Young Guns. Those are stupid expensive. The Young Guns, so you got Cole Caulfield, but there's also Trevor Zegras for the Ducks, probably the two major names. Several others, though. And, of course, the base set parallels, the exclusives are pretty rare. The one French per box, I can get an example. I'll post it on the About the Cards podcast handle on Twitter. I can kind of show you a basic idea, though. Essentially, and that's the back where my power cables are. On the back, the league logo is different because they, of course, go with the L and H. And then, at least on last year's design, instead of saying NHL All-Star, the player's position, it said French says variation. And all of the text on the back would be in French.
Nice. So we're going to have a lot more at the top of the show next week about Series 1 when James Kikowski comes on. So that'll probably be the majority of the top of the show before we get into the actual. Yeah. So because I know he was excited to come on and we'll talk about some of the Young Guns and that Young Gun checklist next week. So also releasing this week, 2021 Leaf Draft Baseball slated to come out tomorrow. And that's it. There wasn't very much. There's a lot coming out on the release calendar for next week. All scheduled release dates are subject to change or current as of this morning. You can always check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Beckett.com/news for more details on these new releases. All right, buckle up. What's brewing next week? On March 9th, slated is 2021 Panini Contenders Football, 2021 Panini Donruss Choice Basketball, 2021 Panini Origins Basketball, 2021 Panini Prism Premier League Soccer, Rittenhouse Star Trek Discovery Season 3, 2021 Topps Chrome Formula One Racing, Blasters, and a couple of other one-offs with that. 2022 Topps Opening Day is scheduled for now. 2021 Topps WWE Women's Division, and 2021/22 Upper Deck Allure Hockey. That's all on the 9th. And then on Friday the 11th, 2021 Panini Playbook Football, 2022 Topps Heritage, and then 2021 Topps WWE Finest Wrestling. So if the release calendar holds, there is a ton for sports collectors of all sports pretty much, as well as some non-sports stuff as well. Busy week.
Thoughts on that one? One, I hope Topps Opening Day has the foil for the now non-existent Opening Day series stamped on the cards, as they have in the past. And two, I just finished Allure, including all of the inserts. Why is a new set got to be releasing so soon?
And the third thought is Heritage actually got pushed up from the 16th to the 11th. So if that date holds, if Opening Day does come out on the 9th, Heritage is going to eat Opening Day for breakfast. And even with no baseball season, most people haven't been affected by that yet because no games have actually been canceled. I mean, they have on paper, but until the end of March, beginning of April, when we're supposed to be seeing baseball, right now it's on paper. And yes, it's going to happen, but a month from now is when people are really going to realize that, hey, my game's not on TV. That's when I think, card markets are really going to start to see the effect of cancellation. Right now, it's just still, we're a month away. So, Infill Chatter Hobby Talk. This one's going to be a little bit of a lengthy topic just because there's a few things we want to highlight here. The Topps Industry Conference was this past week, over the last couple of days. It took place from February 27th through March 1st, so it is not happening any longer as we speak. A few highlights, if that's what you'd like to call them. Josh Luber on Status Quo. This came from Go GTS, who was there. He says, I would guarantee that every segment of the industry that exists today will continue. So what he didn't say is how long that guarantee would be for. And again, if we want to extrapolate and finish the sentence for him, they might exist, but in what capacity? Because we cannot see distribution channels existing in the same capacity, and guaranteed some of the LCSs are going to close. Steph's got the tweet up. It also goes on to say that on trading card to consumer channels and the phrase cutting out the middleman. So he would lead you to believe that the distributors aren't going to be affected, or at least not go away. Josh Luber is planning on trying to run the card business like live betting, according to Darren Ravel. Josh Luber is running Fanatics card business, says their goal is to sell consumers cards live in the moment that athletes are excelling, likens it to live betting. So in other words, did we lose Chris?
I said apparently he's got a phone call. It's going to tap out for the night. Thank you for having me on. Always good to talk to you. Always fun having you on. So good night,
yeah,
Chris.
No, appreciate Chris, and we'll definitely have him on again soon.
The statement that's here screams they're going to issue more Topps Now type events. Guy has, or like the Panini moments where a guy has a 50-point game and instantly has 8, 5, 10, 15 different parallels up on the website ready to go.
Okay, that makes a little bit more
cards.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would be something where, like, literally, LeBron, we'll just use him for examples, having a great game with the Lakers tonight, and all of a sudden you can buy a card in the moment that's only good through an extended period of time, maybe, till the end of the quarter, till the end of the half, perhaps. You've got
even
Mahomes versus Josh Allen, and they're in this game where there's 13 seconds left and then an overtime in that game, and there's going to, hey, you want to get this Mahomes versus Josh Allen card, maybe a duel with the word versus in between them. Well, guess what? You only have until the overtime. As soon as the game is officially over, that's it. And the print run will be calculated based on how many sales, who knows? I think it's a terrible idea because, again, it's going to saturate the market. But if that does happen in some capacity, it's going to create a highly sought after card, perhaps on the secondary market, at least in the immediacy. Like, hey, I missed my window because I wasn't watching the game live.
I missed the moment.
You did. A few other quotes from Luber and others. Luber says, we want as many hobby shops as the market will bear. ... The market will decide how many hobby shops exist. Thank you, Josh Luber, for how capitalism works. That's how everything works. There would be more Subway if more people wanted to eat fresh. It's the market's always going to dictate how many shops there are. The way the business model works from the top down will determine more so than the market, because we're already starting to see some LCSs get pushed out. Now, some have popped up over the last couple of years, but a lot were starting to shut down because why would I go spend 30% markup at Steph's LCS, as much as I might like him, when I can just go buy it directly from the same distributor he's getting it at and save that money? It doesn't make sense. So, if I can get a fanatics.com account and buy direct, perhaps I don't need to go to ABC trading cards and spend their inflated prices, which aren't necessarily inflated outside the fact that they've got to mark it up in order to make a living, right? You can't sell it to you at cost. But that's an associated cost I don't have to expend if I can go right to the source myself as well. Luber also asked directly if non-direct shops will be able to buy directly from Fanatics Topps in the near future. He says maybe. Goes on to say we haven't gotten that far yet. I think they're still making things up as they go along and don't have necessarily a solid plan in place on a lot of these things.
Well, and the interesting point to that I saw as my screen throws it all over is that they didn't rule out selling blaster boxes to hobby shops, considering the price points that have exploded to the mainstream consumer.
Which, hey, makes sense, right? I mean, if you're going to try to, if you're going to try to prop up the LCS, and if the consumer, that partnership makes more sense for Fanatics and ABC Trading Card Shop, if it makes more sense for you to be in business with True Sports Cards, where Shep's at, than it does to have a relationship with Target Walmart. And they're so, Walgreens and Meijer and all of these other one-offs and some of these smaller, it's just like, what's strong. Walmart doesn't care. Walmart's we've talked about this before. They'll cut you out. My section has sodas and chips and other crap where cards used to exist in my Walmart. They'll fill that space. They don't need Topps blasters and Upper Deck blasters and Panini blasters in order to make their, stay in the black. They don't. They'll figure it out. But the LCS does need it. So perhaps, you offer deals there. And then if they're not too terribly expensive, you're also going to bring in some of that lower end entry level dollar amount from budgeted consumers.
So and what we're saying is go see Tim.
Yeah, go see Tim. And then also Tim's in a position where he can regulate how much of that stuff goes to specific buyers. So, if he's given a case, let's say Tim's given 30 blaster boxes of Series 1 baseball, 2 per customer. And he has that ability should he choose to, depending on how much he gets. So you are going to cut out those, the flippers that, the Croc and white T-shirt guys from the summer of 2020.
First of all, I'll have you know, there's nothing wrong with wearing socks and boat shoes. And as far as Crocs, those are those back pages' favorite shoe of choice.
I wear socks and flip-flops because I'm diabetic. So,
well, now you're wrong.
But I don't sit outside of Target like I'm camped out in front of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, back in the 1997. You know what I'm saying?
1999.
We can make more region-specific products and allocate that to hobby shops in that specific region. So being in the Bay Area, you'd have Oakland A's and San Francisco Giants out here in the Northern California area.
You might have the Rangers and Astros here.
You'd have to make Ranger cards first for that to happen. But, hey, I'm all for that. Depending on how deep they want to dive, it could help create new customers that are casual collectors or beginner collectors if you had more products geared specifically towards their favorite teams and not just generalization. I open up a hobby box and I'm not guaranteed to get very many Oakland A's cards or San Francisco Giant cards or Marlins or Rangers and so on and so forth. But now I could potentially have products geared because we see it when a team wins the World Series or, championship. And there's like, hey, you have this Chicago Cubs team set sold at Walmart. Cool. Be really neat if you had more of that outside of just the factory team set of 15 cards you get.
17.
I don't think they did that the last couple of years. Top said something that may be the truest thing they've ever said. It's embarrassing how little we know about our customers. And we'll just leave that there, hanging in the air, because I want to talk about poignant.
Talk about their customers and what they actually release. I mean, they've openly admitted, once the set is released, they don't keep any of what they released, you can find the checklist for like the last year, maybe last 2 years on their website. But if you ask them what were the names of the parallels for 2017 Topps Chrome,
What?
They may be able to guess blue, red, purple, whatnots, but they couldn't tell you what was distributed via retail and what wasn't retail, or how many they were numbered out of, or what year they changed to set design.
What color is Citron? Just tell me that. All I'm asking
that first of all.
All I'm asking Fanatics is consistency, right? I want all of the blue parallels to always be the same serial number. I expect gold in every set always to be 50, period. Red, always 5. Orange, 25. Always 25, right? Purple, 75. Green or emerald or whatever, 99. Whatever you want to do. I don't care what, just the same. I don't need blue to be 250 this time and at a 75 in gold labels. Stop that nonsense. Talk about naivete. New consumers, supply and demand. Get as much product into the market in a responsible manner. We're tired of the peaks and valleys and volatility that have been part of our business. Okay. I ripped apart Luber's manifesto. The problem with supply and demand as it pertains to this, the peaks and valleys are not created outside of anything besides player performance. You're not, because we're in a hobby that is predicated and relies on a third party human performance that drives the market. The peaks and valleys will be dictated by that and that alone. Joe Burrow's market went up because he had a couple of really good games at the end of the regular season and then went on an incredible postseason run and made the Super Bowl in his second year. That's what drove the Joe Burrow market. It had nothing at all to do with Panini whatsoever. It had everything to do with buyer and seller speculation habits. That's it. The peaks and valleys are a byproduct of the hobby we find ourselves in.
So, can you read that fourth bullet for me?
I can't because it's small to me because of my screen small. Growth and investment. Coming from Fanatics, yes, they are investing because it's in their business, right? You do invest in your business. So you're not investing in the card itself. You're invested in your business. I mean, if I open up a coffee shop again, I'm going to have to invest. I mean, I'm doing that with my eBay online sales, right? I've got to invest in, reinvest in the infrastructure of that business, whether that's, the supplies and the time. And, there's a lot of things you do invest in when you're doing a business. And that's really the one thing Topps has not done in the past few years, decade or more, is they haven't reinvested in themselves. They just kind of took their funds and cashed out, status quo. That's when Fanatics came in to begin with and stole the license from them. And I use the word stole very loosely. They were able to acquire that because it was right there for the picking, because Topps just wasn't paying attention. But I wrote after I wrote that, I wrote this in bold. I said, this is what happens in a hobby that's predicated on human performance and arbitrage and speculation. You're always going to see peaks and valleys. It's just the way it is. Topps did not do anything wrong, but there's going to be a valley right now in baseball's market might crater because of, these CBA negotiations that have broken down, and now there's a lockout, and now that's not on Topps. Topps didn't cancel games, but there's going to be a serious valley as a result at some point. At least that's what we're going to anticipate. That is independent of anything Topps and Fanatics, Panini, Upper Deck can do. Hockey cancels. What season was it that Bettman calls off the whole season?
And it's been 405.
04. Can't believe it's been that long. But yeah, if Upper Deck has that exclusive, they didn't do anything wrong. They just got out of bed this morning. They didn't do anything wrong. And so now if it craters their bottom line, the
reason you're probably thinking it hasn't been that long, they did cancel a portion of the 2012-2013 season as well.
Could be. It's just, but again, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that was released in 1996. And you're like, I remember when that was like, I can't wait for that to come out in a couple of months. I want to go to the theater and see it and go, that's been umpteen years ago. So related, but not necessarily directly related, Topps new hobby store program coming in 30 to 90 days. We'll be trying to partner with hobby shops to help drive traffic.
Didn't mention any announcements or any portions of the program.
Yeah, so a lot of this is to be determined and stay tuned. So this is just kind of, you had to be in the room, but a lot of it's just, this is what we have on the horizon. Colin had a video on Sports Card Radio's YouTube. If you want to check this out more, he had 4 worries of the LCS based on rumor and conversations that he was privy to during the convention. The 4 worries that, in his estimation, 1, allocations. Are they going to be able to get their product? This has been an age-old question. 2, data-driven integrated shops and innovative shops are probably going to have a lot more success moving forward than the old. We haven't repriced
dimly
our
lit cobwebs in the corner.
Yeah, my Robin Yount 1975 Topps rookie is still $400 in the case. Let the good times stop. Will cards still hold value and interest? The point that he basically made was, if you've opened up an LCS in the last 2 years, you've seen nothing but that right-sided trajectory month over month over month, with these cards continuing to increase as a whole, as a sum of the industry. Whereas, again, the people that have been around for a while have seen these peaks and valleys come and go as different economic recessions have hit, hobby-related recessions have hit. So, will these new LCSs that are having so much fun in the sun, will they see darker days ahead? Obviously, that's a concern. And then, of course, a decrease in margins as Fanatics tightens the economics around and starts to cut out the middlemen and keeps more of the profit on the front end for themselves. There's going to be less of that pie to be eaten as you get to that second and third layer, which would be the distributors and the LCS shops. And, most companies will scale based on margin. The more money you're making, the higher your margins, the more you can scale and increase. And if you now have X amount of employees, still saw that with Star Stock, right? You're scaling, and then all of a sudden the bottom falls out. Your margins, if you're an LCS and you've got, you're breaking, and all of this stuff is based on, the anticipated forecasting of revenues, and then those margins get affected. We saw it in the NFL when slightly, one off here for a moment, but when the salary cap decreased as a result of COVID, and all of these teams had based their forecasted over the next 3-4 years of salary cap, increases, and all of a sudden it doesn't, and now you've got to tighten the checkbook. So if there are LCSs that have, some struggles, it's very possible that they could potentially go out of business or face, some dark days ahead. So check out that video by Colin, Sports Card Radio, if you have not seen it. He goes into depth on all of those. Those are just some highlights. And then before we move on to the next topic together, Overtime Topps Chrome is coming in March. This is what everyone was excited for the second the Topps Fnatic acquisition was announced. And then, Steph, I don't know if you have the tweet handy, because what they put on their slide was absolutely hysterical. So if you're looking for Topps Chrome basketball cards, you should be getting some this month. And their slide said specifically, do not distribute this. So please keep this between all of us and do not share this with anybody. This is not information that was supposed to be getting out.
And that's why they posted it on their Twitter account. You can see the picture, if it still exists, on the Sport Card Radio Twitter handle.
Knuckleheads. So, Topps NFT Mickey Mantle 1-of-1 auction is live. The auction is being conducted by OpenSea, SEA. It runs from March 1st through March 4th. Steph, how much do you plan to bid?
Nothing.
You're not going to put a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 bid on this?
Well, one, I mean, you have to bid not using monetary funds. You have to use Ethereum and other forms
of scams
to place your bids. Trying to find, I do see that there is 1 day, 12 hours, 39 minutes remaining. And yeah, good luck.
So we'll report next week on what this thing actually sold for. I plan to bid with Monopoly money since NFTs are fake anyway. Why not use fake money? So have a good time.
The top bid at the current moment, I found where the actual auction is being hosted, is 3.15 WETH.
Okay.
Which translates currently to roughly $9,100.
I don't think this thing is going to sell nearly as well as anticipated. I don't think it gets into the multi-millions. It might clear $1 million, but I don't think it's going to clear.
I don't know that it clears 15 or the equatable.
Yeah. I think in the everyday cash value, I would imagine, and I know this is kind of a large window, but I think it's in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. I just don't think there's a lot of interest. Speaking of not interest, this was announced over at the summit. Topps is announcing that they are going to introduce a Project 100 in 2022. We have little details, so all we know is that it's a smaller project. They're changing things like how print runs work. That's it, so stay tuned.
Is this where they throw out 100 ideas that they're thinking of doing, and we all get to shoot down which ones are horrible, like this one?
I don't know how you're going to change how print runs work unless this is an NFT type thing, or unless you're doing it like they did with the Project 2020 8x10s, where only 100 max could be produced. If it sold out, 100 get produced, and if 15 get sold, then your print is 1 out of 15. That's it. I mean, I could see something like that. We're going to do 100 cards, $100, 100 max will get printed, period. And they'll bring back some of the fan favorites like Blake Jameson. Be nice if they brought in, Jared Kelly, people, Paul Jennis from Game Within the Game, some of the other artists. Go out and get Jeff Baker, Gypsy Oak.
Obviously, they need to bring back Ben Baller and Snoop Dogg and.
Yeah.
No?
I don't know. All right. So this actually became a much bigger conversation than I had anticipated. So it begins via me. I had screenshotted a message from eBay to an eBay seller that he had posted on Facebook. I believe it was Monday, if I'm not mistaken. David, the poster on Facebook, got a note from eBay saying that his car did not pass inspection. He is to return $330. The condition mentioned in the listing did not match the condition of the card. Steph, you want to read through that real quick?
No.
Okay.
Here are the details. Hi, David. Our authentication partner received this item, but unfortunately, it didn't pass the inspection. We're refunding the buyer $330 and we'll seek reimbursement of this amount from you. Below, you'll find our authenticator's notes about your item. Your item does not match the condition you described in your listing. Please follow these guidelines, ebay.com/card conditions. If you're unsure, always err on the side of caution with the lower condition. We recommend relisting with a more accurate description and detailed photos to avoid a similar outcome in the future.
So I got into this conversation. I posted this. A few people responded because there were some questions about a few aspects of this. As far as I could surmise, and I think it's the consensus, most everyone was under the impression that when a card sold over $750, now the threshold was lowered to 500. At the 500 price point, you sell a card, it's going to, what is it, CSG, CGS?
CSG or CGC if it's trading at the gaming.
Okay, so it heads off for authentication. I buy a card from Steph. Instead of Steph sending it to me, it goes to CSG. They get this card, they take a look at it and authenticate that yes, this card did come from a pack manufactured by Topps, Panini, Upper Deck. Then at eBay's cost, they send it to me in that nice little package that we've showed before. That's how I was under the impression. I think a lot of people were. It's just to authenticate the card is not fake and reproduced. It's not a reprint as we see so many times with the aforementioned 1952 Topps Mantle, Jordan's rookie, and so many others that are the Mike Trout from 2011. So many fakes out there. So you get that peace of mind that you bought an authentic card. Now it looks like they're damn near grading this thing, that they're looking at the condition. In David's case, there was basically, he wrote used, on my auctions, my buy it nows, I always say selling is found. Please see the scans. Ask for more pictures if you need to. I want you to be able to buy with confidence. I try to show the pictures as best I can. But if you need different angles or better lighting, let me know and I'll do my best to accommodate, right? He said used. But apparently in the subcategories underneath, when you're adding all of the details, whether it's graded and what year it's from and the team, et cetera, apparently there's a condition in there that David didn't mark. And had he marked it as like excellent, perhaps this wouldn't have happened to him. But now eBay's sending it back and he's on the hook for $330. Somebody now presented, how did it get through? If it's only $330, it's under 500. And my response was it had to be a partial refund. And then Ivan brought up, well, at the bottom it says that the card's being sent back to the seller. And I said, no, I think that's just a blanket response where in the future with your future listings, make sure you do the best scans you can and describe it the best you can. And now it comes back to being subjective and arbitrary. I don't know what's meant. I'm wearing glasses. I don't have great eyesight. No matter what I do, no matter what I do in this living room, I can't get the lighting all that great. I installed new lights.
If you give me graph paper, I still can't draw a straight line. You're going to tell me that I have to be the subjective guess on whether something is off center 65, 55, 45 rather?
Yeah, this is nonsense. So, I mean, the only thing we can do besides bitch about it is not use the eBay platform. That's it. We have the right to not list our items for sale, cards or otherwise, and we have the right not to buy as a consumer. You can delete your eBay, but we don't because they hold considerable market share, and that's just the way it is. You dance with the devil, and it's their ball game. So you can bitch about that. I hate managed payments, and I've made that extremely clear for a variety of reasons. But hey, as a seller, my option is to not sell on their platform. It's their platform. They can do what they want, and they can have as much control as they want as long as it is legal. And charging you 10%, 15%, 20% fees and holding your money for a week, as long as they say that and you agree to their terms and conditions. So it'll be interesting to see if a lot of these higher dollar cards start to go to ComC, sport lots, etc., to avoid the authentication program. And maybe that's what eBay hopes for, because I imagine they're eating it on a lot of things. So stay tuned. If you end up getting one of these, please share it with us. We would love to know what it says and why you got one and whether or not you're going to get that card back and how much money they're going to try to ding you for. We want all the details because this is a developing story. And I bet you by the summer, we're going to see a ton of these for a variety of reasons. So please, the next time you list a card over $500, make sure you fill out the condition, not just in the, new with tags, used section, but also in the categories below. Put excellent or something along those lines. Because it's only a matter of time, as somebody suggested on Twitter, before, much like PSA, oh, this card is now valued more than when you submitted it. You owe us more money for grading. It's only a matter of time before, if they're going to ding the seller, they're going to ding the buyer too. Hey, you underpaid for this card. So it'll be interesting to see. The Wander Platinum from Series 1 has been pulled via Cummins Cioli B. Brett, the tweeter, did not mention if he pulled it, just that it was pulled. There's noticeable damage to one corner and along the bottom surface edge. I believe it's the top right corner if you're looking at the card head on.
It's worth noting that this is from Topps First Edition.
First Edition. Okay, we didn't catch that. Okay, so the flagship is still alive. So this is First Edition.
Yes.
Which does alter my next question, because I was going to ask, how does this affect breakers moving forward? So the First Edition Platinum has been pulled. The Silver Pack Superfractor has been pulled. So the Platinum base is probably still out there, or at least we haven't seen it. But you would have to think that First Edition breaks aren't going to go so well now with that card being pulled either.
Probably not.
Speaking of expensive cards, Golden Auctions makes an appearance on About the Cards 2 weeks in a row. A Pokemon auction sets all-time record via Golden Auctions. The 1998 Pikachu Holo Illustrator Japanese promo sold for $900,000. I hope I said that correctly, Steph, in order as to how you'd announce this card. Pikachu Holo Illustrator.
Yep.
The Japanese promo. Is that the right order?
You could throw around the order. It's that's the type of the card. It has the shiny foil, hollow, whatever term you want to use for the background. And yes, the main character is Pikachu. But the reason this one's famous is, one, it was an early run, but two, I think there's only like 40 known to exist. It was run as part of a competition or whatnots as part of a magazine promotion. So first you had to win, then you had to get the card through the mail, and then you still had to keep it since 1998. But in addition, this is illustrated by the creator of Pikachu for Game Freak, I would presume. He specifically drew this card out, and that's when they held the promotion through the magazine to give it away. As they said, the Near Mint 7, I think, has a pop report of 2 with, I think, 1 better. It's the right combination of early on, rarity, everything else.
So would this be like the Nintendo World Champions Gold, like, because it's only available, if you were part of that?
It's the same principle, at least.
Very isolated market to acquire it.
People that won those competitions that were in the appearance, that they were given special promo stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't like a, say like a 1952 again, mantle where it could be pack pulled by anybody alive at that time, and who kept it. It's something where a very isolated group of individuals could have originally acquired it, and then here we are 25 years later, and you have to still have the card in existence. Super short. I mean, as soon as I saw a Japanese promo on it, I'm like, okay, that's got to be part of the significance outside of it being an early, Pokemon card, it being Pikachu. It's like, okay, I being naive as to the significance, you could just look at the PSA label and go, okay, I'm going to go ahead and deduce that this card has a significance because of the following.
Right.
But
well, so semi-related, not to this card, but at least in this realm. And then as far as rarity, way back in the day, Nintendo Power, the magazine, that have little tips and tricks, new upcoming releases, some features and whatnots. They ran a promotion that they would pick out one person and use their name in an upcoming Nintendo game. And they would give the kid, a T-shirt, a hat, some whatnots. And for the longest time, nobody knew who the kid was or what game he was actually featured in, until some of the people who would play the games on computer toyed around with some of the coding and found out that if you did a certain combination of going from one place to another and then following through here within a certain time frame, you would get dropped into this demo room, and it would say, "Hey, this is the Chris Houlihan room." And a link to the past. But technically, his name is in the game. You just have to do it in the right, proper order in a certain time frame.
Dumb. Okay. Hey, they didn't lie. They just didn't tell the whole truth. They could be perhaps a politician. They could be a weatherman. They could be an economist. I mean, it's kind of just make things up as they go along. Speaking of spending a lot of money on cards, this came via Matt Mank, MANK915. I'm going to go ahead and channel my inner Rod Serling. I've been watching a lot of Twilight Zone lately. The year is 2013, well before the heavy speculative market we currently find ourselves in. The player was Yasiel Puig. You find yourself spending silly money on this unknown Cuban prospect. The year is now 2022. Whoops. A message to all Wander Franco buyers. Caveat emptor. So, that's kind of where he was at. Matt had shown a 2013 Yasiel Puig card that had, that was about the time when we started seeing a lot of speculation jump into the hobby once again, and people were going nuts over Puig, and Cespedes of the A's had come up in 2012, and he had a lot of success, and his card market was off the charts. Mostly because I was buying them and I was setting that market, so I'm well aware of how stupid it was getting. Puig came up, and again, believe this or not, a lot of Puig autos were selling for $65, $75, $85. And at that time, I remember thinking, my word, and the hobby was reacting the same way. Oh my goodness. This unknown guy selling for $65. How dare the market? I mean, you look back on then and think, it's like spending $3 on a gallon of gas, a couple years back and going, man, look at how expensive this gas is. I remember the market back in 2013 reacting, just thinking we're spending stupid money on this unknown prospect, hoping that maybe Puig is the next Cespedes, and hopefully Cespedes is the first Cespedes, and just buyer beware. Not to suggest Franco's, not in a much different class than Puig is, but you just never know. Guy decides, to Pedro Serrano it, and he can't hit a breaking pitch. He gets the yips from shortstop. He Chuck no blocks himself. Lots of things can happen. Obviously, injuries. Nobody's rooting for it. He's a young kid, bright future, but you never know. We're not sure of the validity of this next topic, but it shouldn't surprise us if it's true. At Dizzle AZ said he asked the associate at a Walgreens about baseball mystery boxes and new 2022 Topps hanger boxes. He said that the guy from the other Walgreens intercepts the MJ Holdings boxes, buys them, and resells them on eBay and other sites. My first question is, why is he or anyone buying mystery boxes? Because that's the real crime.
I mean, there were some rumors, and I've actually seen a few people break them and actually end up with decent things. But yeah, no, I'll stick to buying out, an actual release, Series 1, Series 2,
Or
update,
Diamond King.
DK.
So yeah, I mean, obviously that kind of shenanigans happens. One example from a distributor: blowout pre-orders that shows hobby inflation over a 5-year window. This came via Chris at Kraken Wax. I've seen other, I don't want to name who they all came from. Chris, put these on his own Twitter. I've had some people share this stuff with me privately, different Excel spreadsheets of distributor prices throughout the years, and it's fascinating to see the inflation. So Chris had 4 different tweets. First one was Topps Chrome. He spent $1,175, so $1,175 in 2018. You want it this year, he's going to have to spend $3,550 or a 300% increase in 5 years. You do that. Okay, so Topps Tier 1, he spent $1,250 in 2018. And he's going to spend $2,500 this year if he wants to buy some. So that's a 200% increase. Bowman Hobby, he only had a 3-year window. So this is even more telling. In 2020, he spent $1,600 and he's going to have to spend $3,550 this year, or a 220% increase. And then Museum Collection in 2018 was $2,325. Again, it's a slightly higher mid to high tier product. $2,325 in 2018, and it's up to $4,150 this year, or a 178% increase. Imagine this type of 5-year increase in any other industry. Any other industry. You're talking a 200 to 300% increase. So you go to your McDonald's 5 years ago and you pay $10 for your number one, your Big Mac meal with some French fries and a soda.
Double cheeseburger.
Your double cheeseburger, $8.90, with your large Diet Coke and your medium oversalted French fries. 2018. Now the year's 2022. You're paying $30 for that same burger and fries. Think about that. You go buy your 2.5 pound bag of potatoes for $2, and now it's worth $6. Your gallon of your whatever it is, 1.75 liters quarts of Dreyer's ice cream for $3.99 is now $12. Your Ben and Jerry's is now $15. Your gas goes from $4 to $12. I mean, think about that. And we're ready. And at least with that, it's food. It's gas for your transportation. I mean, if your mortgage, it's $1,500, it's $4,500 in 5 years. Relate that to other aspects of your life that are things that we need to survive. But trading cards, come on, something's got to give. This can't keep jumping this much year over year.
And that's a good point too. And that's why I stick to vintage.
Yeah. I mean, literally the last handful. And I think Froze Finds and Breaks was referring to I stick to vintage in regards, I believe, to the Yasiel Puig topic. I could be mistaken. But now it applies to this topic too. And probably the rest of the night and next week and next week. Pretty much you could cut and paste that comment into just about any modern day topic that we discussed that's happened over the last couple of years. I mean, 300% inflation in 5 years on a damn baseball card. Come on.
You want a fun one? Admittedly, it's a bigger product per se, but after tax, title, license, an insurance policy, and some other stuffs, I rolled out of the dealership paying roughly $35 for my Jeep. Expensive, nice toy, but I've gotten offers to sell it back to dealerships for $43, $45. And that's after having it for roughly 6 months.
Yeah. Because they can make money on the back end. I don't even want to tell you what I bought my house for back in 2011 because I have refinanced it and paid off some debt and whatnot over the last, dozen years. I don't even want to tell you how much, equity I'd be sitting on if I had never touched my original mortgage or what my payment was, because, but you think about that, these are conscious decisions that we make to refinance our mortgage so that it go. I mean, we're saying I'm okay with it going up because I'm, paying off student loans and cars and credit cards or taking out cash for whatever reason. But just think about that. If tomorrow you woke up and say, I'm going to get gas in the morning because I don't want to stop on my way home. I just want to get home and I want to take off my shoes. I want to put on my Jeopardy and eat my sunflower seeds and eat my bowl of Rice Krispies.
Depends if you have a better Jeopardy round than that lady the other day.
I'm gonna turn my Muppet Babies and watch it with my kid, and I'll get gas in the morning. And then tomorrow morning you wake up and they're like, "Yeah, guess what, dude? Last night it was $4.60, and today it's $13." Why is it $13 today? Because we watched about the cards last night, and you're telling us that 300% inflation is okay. And you're willing to do it with baseball cards and football cards, so you're going to do it with your Chevron with Techron gas. Come on, stop.
And your 14 miles to the gallon, expensive vehicle.
Stop. This is ridiculous. And we let it happen because we keep paying for it, whether we're doing it directly or we're doing it through breakers or we're doing it indirectly and buying the crap on the secondary market. It's our money. We can choose how we want to spend it, but we're literally feeding the beast, saying 300% increases are okay by us because we need our Minnesota Twins and our Oakland A's. We want to chase our Wander Franco 101s. And it goes back to Fro Fine's thing, That's why I stick to vintage. Yeah, well, okay, the vintage market isn't going to inflate that way. And even if it does at a 300% clip, 5 years from now, you're probably going to get the majority of your money back if you decided to park your money there and now you want to cash out. Odds are, with your Bowman prospects, very few you're going to have that same rate of return. So, consumers versus PWCC lawsuit update via, of course, Paul Lesko. Plaintiffs decided not to refile their class action lawsuit without prejudice, meaning that they can refile if they choose. So the People versus Shieldbirders 1.0 is now decided in PWC's favor. This is a huge win for them for now, whether a class action comes at a later date or not. So check out Paul Lesko's. What date was it? It was from the 28th of February. If you go to his timeline, starts out with, wow, a big win in the hobby litigation. And then you can read through all of his thoughts on this being dismissed and perhaps not refiled. Not a surprise. It's going to be very difficult. You got to bring your A game. You got to have a lot of proof if you're going to. I mean, that's why people are like, oh, when we say something about Probstein or we say something about PWCC and they're like, well, prove it. If we could prove it, it would be a whole different ballgame. Rumor and innuendo are strong enough for us to know what's going on here. And by the way, I also tweeted out earlier today, somebody won some PWCC stuff at auction through their private website, and those bids got canceled because the assumption is PWC didn't get their price. So, gotta love when players tweet out trading card related content, this time via Marcus Stroman. Great easily follow.
Some of my favorite content. This being athletes posting pictures of them signing their stuff. One, it kind of gives us a little sneaky preview, but two, I mean, it also kind of gives you an idea of what Topps gives these players. You can kind of see some boxes in the background, some different Sharpie colored pens, blue ink to be used on. Presumably it's saying something to this effect, or, for this run, use red or whatnots, as well as some of the unsigned one. I mean, look at how many there's easily, 300-400 cards here on his table.
Now, is he holding his left thumb on the corner of that card?
It may be just laying against his thumb. It doesn't look like it's directly on that corner. I don't.
So he tweeted this out because he's excited. He's actually signing Gypsy Queen autos. And the Gypsy Queen autos are of him in a New York Mets uniform, which he signed in before the lockout started. So this is most likely going to be his first Mets cards, unless he has some an opening day. But it most likely will be his first auto Mets cards, if nothing else. This is Cubs great content. Cubs, excuse me. I put Mets because that's where he used to play. So, yeah, and just real quick, Fro Fine says he's not personally looking for returns as much as retained value. You don't have to worry about Ernie Banks or anybody else from those eras tearing an ACL, never being in the same, dropping off the face of the earth. Obviously, doing something silly, that's going to get them into some legal hot water and change the optics. So many reasons to put your money into vintage if that's your thing, and of course it's just better to collect. I mean, I've got a lot of vintage in my closet. Just that's where I keep my binders, and when I go in there, it smells like 1955 tops in there, and that's cool with me.
I mean, relatedly, I mean, I kind of feel sorry for the people who bought Cain Velasquez cards, given what came out in the news about him this week.
Yeah, there's so many guys that make silly mistakes, and you're always going to get something in retrospect that so-and-so did. But
was accused of doing.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Ty Cobb wasn't going to win Citizen of the Year, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to affect his long-term valuation of his cards. And in hindsight, he could have been an a-hole, and that's cool. Nobody really cares, and some of it's personality versus actions. But and vintage isn't for everybody. We get that, but there's a lot worse ways in this hobby you can spend your money. Speaking of which, we all love off-center and miscut vintage and junk wax era cards. I got one sent to me this week. Mark Wilkins, I believe it was, sent me 1986 Mike Davis that got a little bit of another card on the side of it. This one's cool, though. This was sent via Blowout Buzz. This is a reminder that if your 52 Jackie Robinson is off-center enough, you're a fractional owner of a Mickey Mantle. So if you own the Bobby Thompson card from this particular sheet, which would be card number 313, you're a fractional owner of the rest of that Jackie Robinson card.
Indeed. So some of these auction houses will occasionally have an uncut sheet. In this case, that's where I grabbed this picture from. Just typing in, 1976 uncut sheet, and you probably find 3 or 4 different auction houses auctioning them off over time. But I was able to pull this up to see, where was he on the sheet to see who else would have been around. And yeah, you got Mickey Mantle to the left, top left corner, Jackie Robinson just next to him, Robbie Thompson next to him, and then below him,
Bobby with a B.
Bobby, it's kind of blurry.
Robbie was second baseman for the Giants in the 80s.
I'm thinking of someone else. And
second baseman of the Giants in the 80s, Robbie Thompson.
On Twitter.
Bobby Thompson is, the Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
Linguistically speaking, I was thinking of someone from Twitter as I was saying it.
I said Joe Montana.
But also Dick Grote below him.
Who else is on that sheet that would be?
So you got
some of the other big names.
Some blurry names. Gil McDonald. Yeah. See any other major names?
Once you get past Mantle and Robinson, kind of, yeah. There you go. The greatest knuckleballers. I mean, yeah. All right, that's awesome just to see that. And so yeah, if you have that Jackie Robinson, you also have a little bit of a Mickey Mantle. So not so bad.
Maybe the most expensive miscut card currently at auction. 5 bids, $25,000.
Yeah, I bet. What a cool card to have. Not just because obviously it's the Jackie, but also
Talk
that
about
little sliver of a
fractional
mantle.
ownership.
Yeah, so we obviously Holy Grails, both of those cards. Yeah, we as a hobby often overuse the term Holy Grail as it pertains to trading cards. So what about this? This came via Employee 84, 2012 Panini Age Wood Relic, allegedly from the Titanic. It is currently listed on eBay for $3,000.
Gotta
Pretty neat.
think. I mean, outside of some artificial scarcity type stuff, that this has got to be near the top for an actual Holy Grail-esque. I mean, unless we start getting an actual Holy Grail or Monty Python Holy Grail, even, it's got to be near the top. I mean, obviously the ship's still where it is. The materials aren't nearly as available as even a Babe Ruth bat.
And what's amazing is over 100 years later, the pool is still full of water.
Indeed.
Yeah. So the last topic before we get out of here tonight was actually put up on the About the Cards Twitter handle. It was a poll. Steph put it up asking about buybacks. Buybacks are ? The options given to choose from were parallels. So buybacks are parallels. Buybacks are hits. Buybacks are inserts, or buybacks are dumb.
And I kind of debated putting that last one there just because I knew this was probably going to be the result. But I wanted to see everyone's opinion because I'm currently working through, this Diamond King card that has a Bat Relic from Ralph Kiner is obviously a hit. And these insert sets from Series 1 and Series 2 are obviously inserts. But what's a buyback?
So read the poll results for those listening.
56 votes, 3.6% of people said parallels. And I can buy that because they are kind of, for example, they are a parallel of 1987 in that it's got stamped and it's kind of like a 2017 run. 17.9% said that it's an insert. And sure, it was an insert. It's not part of the base set for 2017 tops, for example. Some people called them hits, 16.1% of the 56 people. And 62.5% of people said it was dumb. So roughly, 27 votes?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's like, do you put the 1988 buyback with your 1988 Topps cards, or do you put them with your 2020 archives, if that's where, or heritage, that's where it came from?
No, I get a Topps buyback binder for the Twins.
Yeah, and you put them with your player collection, perhaps. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think a couple years ago I got really into the ones because they were all from 88, 89, 90 Topps. So it's the era that I grew up collecting. So I wanted as many of those rediscovered Topps buybacks as I could find. And the reds and the golds and the silvers, all the different parallels. And you're buying to say an 18-cent 1989 Topps Mike Callego is giving it a 17-cent appreciation value because that's the sport lot minimum, right? But it was kind of cool as a 40-year-old man to go back and collect the buyback version that is just a base card that was rebought and stamped and packed out. But at the end of the day, was it a waste of money? Subjective, arbitrary, independent onto your PC. Are they dumb? Yeah. Are they hits? Maybe. Are they inserts? Okay. Are they parallels? I'm all right with that. I don't think there's any. I don't know that they need to have a classification, right? You get into a new relationship with somebody and you're like, are we boyfriend and girlfriend? Does it really matter? Do you have to label them?
It's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. In my database, that's what I'll put. Are they under? It's complicated tab.
So I ran the math. It's roughly 2 people, 10 people, 9 people, and the rest.
Yeah, so they go on the same page in the same binder with your printing plates and other things that we're not 100% sure what they are. We just know that they're cards and we now have them.
They exist.
So Well, let's get out of here, Steph. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I do not at this time, although I will be at the Dallas Card Show tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and I think Sunday as well. At the ComC booth, taking submissions, answering questions. Come see me, and
taking selfies with listeners.
If somebody wants one with me, again, I don't know. I know several people who refuse to admit that they know me. So,
all right. Upcoming guests, we got James Kikowski next week. We've got Ben Aguirre, Cardboard Icons, on March 16th. We're going to argue about rookie cards and probably opening day. March 23rd, we have Kyle at Collector Caps. We talked about that. Also, Andrew Renault is going to sit in as a third guest. I believe March 30th, we'll have Jeffrey Zelsky on, and he wants to get destroyed by me. On whatever. There's a lot of Z's and L's and K's and
like
S's
the Excel spreadsheet, the cell, and then skis.
So we'll have Jeff Database on there. And then Jared Kelly live in the chat got scheduled for April 13th. And episode 200 on April 27th has a very special guest to be determined and announced later. And then we have a couple of openings on the 6th and the 20th of April. But that's who we've got. Remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube.
Or 10 Central.
Make sure to subscribe and review our show on all platforms. Give us the like, the thumbs up, the subscribe, all that good stuff on the YouTube.
Much like a card show, much like a card shop, it's an LCS. Like, comment, subscribe.
There you go. Look at that. Appreciate all the interaction from Rich Frank, Jeremy, Froze Finds. Appreciate everybody that was in the chat tonight listening live. I know we're up late. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. Steph at Junkwax Twins. Myself at Our Trading Cards. Chris Anderson, who had to leave earlier, at CD Anders 313. Please share your hobby stories, great polls. Send your questions our way. Keep collecting. We'll see you next week.
Bye.